Matt Boyle coming up. He's at another embassy, the Breitbart embassy, right up the road, actually. And they put on a great event last night. Breitbart did for Ann Coulter. It was great, outstanding. As always, they always do it right. And Matt got to say a few words and get everybody all fired up. Matt Boyle, he is the political editor of Breitbart News. Matt, great to have you, man.
How you doing?
Great event last night. Great job. That was fabulous. I really had a good time. Ann was great.
Yeah, it was amazing. We had a lot of great people there. We love to do that kind of thing, and so you know, the most important thing is that we dedicated the event to the memory of Molly Tibbetts, the 20-year-old girl in Iowa who was killed brutally murdered by an illegal alien. And she should be alive today, and would be alive today if Democrats didn't have any control over our immigration policy.
Well, it's a sad state of affairs, no question about it, and. You know, it's amazing that got almost zero play in the legacy media. Zero.
None.
Right?
None. And by the way, they covered this girl being missing for a month, right? Like on the front pages everywhere. And then all of a sudden when it comes out that her killer is an illegal alien and that she was murdered, it all of a sudden seems to disappear, and the Democrats are now trying to explain it away or just ignore it completely. In fact, the Democrat challenger to the congressman in the district where this happened. Rod Blum is the congressman in the district where this happened in Iowa. He's a great guy, a solid conservative too. And his Democrat challenger didn't even mention in her statement that it was an illegal alien who killed Molly Tibbetts. But this is sadly the same story we've seen a number of times, whether it be Kate Steinle, Molly Tibbetts. We've seen tons of other stories like this with the Angel Moms. It's just how many murders have to happen before we get our borders under control and we stop this open borders madness that people like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton, Liz Warren all want to unleash upon the country. So we have to get our border under control. We have to secure the country.
It is a sad state of affairs, and I mean, you just summed it up, Matt. I mean, the legacy media covered Molly Tibbetts day after day after day about her missing, but as soon as they discovered that she was murdered by somebody here illegally, that, by the way, was working in the country, we understand, with a false ID, it just went kapoof, like it didn't exist. I mean, it's unbelievable. I want to get to the Cohen situation and then get to the midterms. If you're following any of the legacy media the last 2 days, you would think that the world had just come to an end. Michael Cohen copped a plea. 6 of the 8 charges don't have anything to do with the president. But from CNN and everybody else, they're running around saying that he's going to be impeached. They're all going to be indicted. They're all going to jail. The administration's over. There's no more Trump. And you look at it and you say, what evidence do they have that this president did anything wrong? I can't find any. What about you?
Yeah, look, okay, so there's both Manafort and Cohen. So first with Manafort, none of the charges on which he was convicted or even indicted have anything to do with President Trump in the case of Manafort. In fact, one of the jurors was just on Fox News the other night. I implore everybody to go watch this interview. This Trump supporter lady who was on the jury said that she still supports the president, intends to vote for him in 2020. She called the Mueller probe a witch hunt. And was upset with the way that the charges were brought against Manafort, but still voted to convict because the evidence was overwhelming in the case of his tax issues. So the fact of the matter is that I don't think that the Manafort thing is going to have anything to do with any effect on the electorate at all. It's not surprising to us. In the case of the Cohen thing, very similar. I don't think have seen the full book play out on the Cohen thing yet. And we'll see kind of where those last 2 charges go and whatever evidence or whatever comes out. But ultimately, at this stage, I don't think there is any evidence that Michael – first off, they haven't presented anything to back up their claims against the president. And Lanny Davis was asked by Chuck Todd yesterday if they have evidence, and he, in so many words, basically said that it may come down to Michael Cohen's word against the president's. Well, sorry, that's not good enough. That's not Michael Cohen's word is not evidence. It is the guy is a skeezy guy. This isn't really surprising that he engaged in conduct that he now admits was illegal in court. So the fact of the matter is that I think you will see this kind of dramatically play out for a while, But I do think that politically speaking, what it does is it does make it very clear what this midterm election's about. If anybody out there wants to impeach President Trump, vote for a Democrat. If you want to stand up for the president, you want to stand up for what he's done for this country economically. By the way, the vast majority of Americans are better off today economically than they were 2 years ago. In almost every single indicator, the economy is better, and the country is better than it was 2 years ago. The question is that if people want to impeach the president, then vote for Democrats. That's what this is going to be. If the Democrats take the House majority in November, they will impeach President Trump. And don't listen to Nancy Pelosi. She can try to downplay impeachment all she wants to, and that's what she's trying to do right now. She will have a serious math problem if and when the Democrats win, because if they take the majority by a slim margin, by 5-6 seats, something like that. If Pelosi won't move forward with impeachment proceedings, then that radical wing of the Democrat Party, led by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they will find someone who will. They don't care. They will move Nancy Pelosi out of the way, and they will put someone else in the driver's seat to go impeach the president. This is a battle between two movements, and that has become extraordinarily clear. It is the MAGA grassroots economic nationalist movement on our side, and it is the radical socialist left on their side. And this could be resolved in November if Republicans hold the majority. If the Democrats take it, I think the war is going to go on for a very long time.
So, two people I talked to this week, your former chairman there, Steve Bannon, and then pollster Pat Caddell from the Jimmy Carter days, Democratic pollster, both said in order for the Republicans to win and hold the House in 2018 midterms, that the president had to, by all means, nationalize the election, make it about a referendum on him and his economy, on the whole Mueller investigation. It's got to be a referendum. Nationalize it. It can't be about potholes. It can't be about a local pipeline. He said it's got to be about Trump or get rid of Trump. That's it. Do you believe that is the answer? I do, and I think it's even more than that. I think it has to be about the national issues, right? Immigration, trade, the economy, and healthcare, as well as several other major national issues, national security. By the way, do you remember back in 2015, 2016 when we were talking every day about Islamic State attacks, ISIS attacks? We haven't been talking about that. Why? This is the biggest underreported story of this presidency. President Trump and Secretary Mattis at the Defense Department have decimated ISIS. It doesn't exist anymore. I mean, there's a little bit out there, but there's a few of them still on the run. But the fact of the matter is that they were controlling territory the size of like a U.S. state, in the Middle East. They're gone now, right? Mm-hmm. We have succeeded in decimating ISIS. The fact of the matter is that this administration has succeeded on every single front, on every single matter, on every single policy front that it has. So yes, it's about all of that stuff about the up or down vote on whether Trump should remain president. It's an up or down vote on impeachment. It's an up or down vote. It's his first reelection, really. But it's also a referendum on the policies, right? So do we want to have the Islamic State running around again? Okay, let's vote for some Democrats, right? Do we want to have open borders? Okay, let's vote for some Democrats. Do we want to have unfettered trade deals like the Trans-Pacific Partnership that President Trump eliminated? Okay, vote for some Democrats, right? So do we want to have Obamacare? Okay, vote for some Democrats. You're right. The only way that the Republicans hang on to the House, and I think they're going to gain seats in the Senate. It's a matter of, is it 1 or 2 or is it 7? But I think it's got to be a national election. And I think the president is going to do that based on the schedule that I saw. I mean, he's going to be doing up to 2 rallies a week here between now and the election, or 1 rally a week and some 2 weeks. So between now and November, you're going to get probably 16 rallies in 20 weeks. So his schedule is going to get way ramped up. And I think that's what they're attempting to do. We're with Matt Boyle. Matt is the political editor of Breitbart News. Download their app. Go to Breitbart. Just go to your app store. Breitbart News right there. Get the news of the day. I want to talk about something that is also getting no play in the United States, except for a tweet that the president finally sent out. But as Breitbart has reported this week, the South African government has begun seizing the first white-owned farms under a new policy that rejects the principle of willing buyer, willing seller in favor of expropriation without compensation. So basically, if you're a farmer and you own land in South Africa, they have land reform going on, they will simply kick you off your farm and take your land. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe. This is another underreported story by the fake newsers. The goal is to accelerate land reform, which many in power in South Africa think is just going at a snail's pace. What do you think of this whole thing?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to the South Africa stuff. I know that one of our other editors here, Joel Pollack, is from South Africa and has covered it in depth. I do know that the president has directed the Secretary of State to investigate the matter and see what more we can figure out on it. And I do know that it's extraordinarily controversial, everything that's going on there, and everything that's been happening in South Africa for many decades has been fraught with racial tension. And so how this all plays out in the future, it will be very interesting to watch. But again, I would defer to Joel Pollack on the expert analysis there. So.
Okay, well, we'll get him on that. Basically, the president's sending a tweet out today. He says, I have asked Secretary of State Pompeo to closely study the South Africa land and farm seizures and expropriations and the large-scale killing of farmers. South African government is now seizing land from white farmers, and this is what the president sent out. So he's getting, as you said, Matt Boyle, Secretary Pompeo to look into this. You know, when we talked last night, and I don't know if you said it to me personally or when you were up on the podium, but you said something that struck me, and I've been carrying the theme today, Matt Boyle. You said that this midterm is the most important midterm election in the history of the country. Why?
I think that if look, we've been in a war between the grassroots left, the resistance to President Trump, and the people that want to make America great again, right? The MAGA movement. So the fact that we've been in this war that's been lasting, really, you want to go back to at least the beginning of the Obama administration, maybe back through the Bush administration, back to Reagan. There's been two different visions for this country that have been battling each other for a very long time in these grassroots movements. And so you see this play out now with the resistance that's fueled by these socialists like Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and so on and so forth. And then you see the economic nationalists on this side. And then in the middle there's all these globalists that kind of, pick a hodgepodge of different things and to maintain power. But the thing is that if the MAGA folks hold the House majority this year, I can't see a pathway forward for the socialist-fueled resistance to President Trump continuing their mass obstruction of the president and his agenda. I think that they almost have to surrender. If the Republicans hold the majority in November in the House, if the Democrats take the majority in the House in November, then I think this war continues for at least another several years, maybe another decade more. So I think there's a battle for the heart and soul of the country right now. And which direction are we going to go? What kind of country do we want to be? And that will play itself out in this midterm election. It's definitely played itself out in the 2016 presidential election, which was probably one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime. But it will play itself out again this year.
So, Matt, when you said a little bit now and just last night in our conversation, which also struck me, you said if the Republicans gain in the Senate and keep the House in 2018, you said last night a little more emphatically, you said that will break the resistance. That will break the back of this whole resistance thing. Elaborate on that.
Yeah, I think that they don't have a strategic pathway forward. If you look at this, like there's two different military campaigns, okay? Like there's two sides of a war, all right? There's the economic nationalists and there's the resistance, okay? And the resistance is fighting for its side of the war, and at that said point, they are basically going to be cornered if the Democrats don't take the House. If the Democrats don't take the House, the resistance is cornered. They're going to have to surrender. They don't have a pathway forward. They're broken
because
right. They're going to have to surrender, and so they're strategically boxed in. So that's what's happening right now. So all of this has been building to this moment. And so if the Republicans hold the House, now if they don't and the Democrats take it, then the resistance has a pathway forward, right? There's a new day for the resistance. But that's the question. So I don't know the answer to that right now. I think it's probably about a coin toss right now.
One of the reasons you said last night that you believe that this fierce Democratic opposition to President Trump would crumble is because they don't have any policy alternatives. Right? This is all on just, hate, beat, get rid of Trump. And so if they can't do that in November, what you were saying last night is they have no fallback position because this is not ideologically or policy driven. In a lot of it, it's just anti-Trump. And then if you go to their policies, they're wildly unpopular because their policies are repeal the tax cut, increase taxes, go to nationalized medicine, Medicaid for all, abolish ICE, open borders. None of these are popular. So it's like they almost have to hide their policies, cloak it in the anti-Trump fervor in order to get power, right? I kind of sum up?
That's exactly right. And their vision is extremely radical. Okay, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to abolish immigration and customs enforcement. She wants to eliminate the federal agency that does our immigration enforcement. Okay, so I don't know if you noticed this. In the middle of all the Cohen and Manafort news, this was buried the other day. President Trump deported the last living known Nazi. God.
Right.
That, by the way, the Bush administration and the Obama administration didn't do anything about, okay? They let this Nazi, literal Nazi, who worked in Hitler's regime as one of the prison guards, live in New York City. Whose district did this guy live in? For years and years and years. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district. Who deported him? ICE. ICE deported this guy back to Germany thanks to an agreement that the German ambassador, Rick Grinnell, the U.S. ambassador to Germany, was able to secure from the German government, German Chancellor Angela Merkel's government. So the fact of the matter is that we were able to secure this agreement, and then it was ICE that picked him up and deported him out. So if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got her way, there would be a Nazi running around her district. So I don't know, how their idea of abolishing ICE would actually work. It doesn't make any sense. So these are pie-in-the-sky, crazy liberal ideas. They need to come back to reality. And what I'm hoping is that if and when the resistance is broken and the Republicans hold the House and they do surrender, that the fact is that at that stage maybe they start trending back around to reality, because there was a time when Democrats weren't off the rails crazy on immigration. If you go back and look at some of the videos of some of these guys back in the early 90s or late 80s, where they talked about getting our country secure and stopping illegal immigration, they all of a sudden made a political calculus somewhere in the mid-90s during the Clinton administration, it looks like, thanks to advice from Ted Kennedy, where they decided to go off the rails. But there was a time when people like Barbara Jordan were leading the Democrat Party on immigration and fighting against this craziness. And so hopefully we can get back to that at one point or another.
And President Clinton himself was for securing the southern border and very much opposed to an open borders policy back in the day when he ran the Southern Leadership Conference as governor of Arkansas. I'm out of time. Matt Boyle, I want to thank you for being with us, political editor of Breitbart. Go to Breitbart.com, download their app. Matt, thanks for being with us.